This is how all this started. Over 20 years ago, I was talking with David Okamura, and I was saying that I wanted to build an Aranka Champ out of plastic, and they just didn't have the kits for an Aranka Champ. And he says, you can get them in paper. And I said, why should I build it in paper? And he says, well, they look great. And I said, yeah, I've built them in paper, Comet models with the rivets and the stringers and all that. But I wanted one that looked like the Aranka Champ. And he says, order this. So I did. And it comes in an envelope with a couple of sticks in it. And I figured, what is this? And I figured I'm not going to build it properly first try, so I copied the parts pages. And then I built a copy of it. And I got a feel for it. And doggone, I finished it around midnight, I guess it was, on that particular night. And I'm looking it over, and I'm looking at the windshield because the instructions on the paper model was, do not use glue, which I thought was fascinating. And I cut the clear plastic out according to that little pattern and folded it the way they said. And then when you put it in here, you glue the edges. And doggone, that is just the way I remembered it when I got my license as a 17-year-old. And I sat there looking at this thing, and I'm looking inside, and the inside is all detailed. You don't have the Comet model paper build type model. You have a model that looks like the real thing. The next thing I knew, I looked at the clock, and it was 12:20. I had spent 20 minutes just admiring the work. And the resulting model from a flat piece of paper. Talking with David Okamura, those of you that remember him, he introduced me to the Grand Master paper modeler, Jim Nunn. Jim? And this was back in when we met in Northrop. Yeah, over 20 years ago. So folks, it's been a while. The other thing I learned was, and David got me introduced into it, was the paper model company called Fiddler's Green. They have over 1,000 models. And what are we talking? $4, $5, $7 for a model. And what do you get? You get the model, but you get many versions of it. And in this case, it was a Vought 4U Corsair. Comes with all the history. And you get the model itself that you print off on your printer, on heavy cardstock. That's what it looks like. You also get a black and white version. And this is what I use for making aluminum, the soda cans. And somewhere along the way, I discovered a terrific book. It's called Scale Models from Soda Cans, and it's a complete step-by-step history, not only the history, but the this fellow, Joe Baker, he taught classes on how to do this. And it takes you step by step all the way through. A couple of things I'm not going to get into tonight, which would be the joining of soda cans, other than my simplified method. The other thing, okay, now I've got something that's going to show me how to build my paper models out of soda cans. I just had to give it a try. This is back, again, over 20 years ago. He has a different method for cutting the can. I believe my method is simplified. And what I do is I use a box cutter, go to the open end up here, and there is a shoulder. Now that shoulder is thicker than this aluminum here. Some modelers use that as a canopy support. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate how my method of cutting this can and getting the material that I need to build the models. This is not for little kids because there's so many sharp edges. I really should put my glasses on. Let's see. What you don't want to do is cause dimples in these things. Be careful. Scissors, my favorite pair of scissors that I've used over the years, I couldn't find them. I misplaced them someplace, so I'm using a different pair tonight. I hope it works out well. With that end gone, what you want to do is make your first cut straight up along the edge. Now, I choose to cut here because I'm not happy when I go to build the models with this, what I call garbage. Some modelers utilize even that, but not me, for my size models. You don't want to cut all the way up the tip, to the tip, because the tip will cause raised portions or a little belt. What you want to do is just get up there and come around and as close as possible to that end piece, cut it off. I go one step further. I don't throw this away. Oh, well, getting old. Got to see what I'm doing. All right, I take that end piece and a pair of duckbills. By the way, these duckbills have been with me since 1958. I use them for safety wiring on aircraft. It just takes a minute or two, and what I end up with is a palette where I can use, or that I can use for mixing. Placing the glue, take your dental tool and you can take your glue from there and work. It'll sit flat like that. If you're unhappy with having the dome, fine. Just go up to an edge of something and push on that dome and you can flatten that out. It's a handy little tool. This I throw away. Some people, when they cut the cans, I've learned, end up with little shards or pieces that fall off, so you have to be careful. Now, what I have here is a curled piece of aluminum soda can with a terrible edge that was resulted from the cutting with the scissors along that edge. And what I do is I remove it. notice that I didn't take a lot of little teeny shortcuts. If you do that, you will get sharp edges all the way up there instead of a nice straight line. So try to make your cut as long as possible. All right, this looks pretty good. And in storage of these things, well, first of all, we want to flatten it out. How do we flatten this thing out? You can put it on the back of a chair or the edge of a table, grab it, pull it down, and you now have I went a little bit too far, but you got a fairly flat piece. Simple, very simple and easy. What I wanted to point out was a little bit of safety here. Always round those corners. That is what's going to get you as you spend a couple of evenings, you're in the mood to take a bunch of cans and just flatten them out, end up with your whatever soda can you want that you're planning on using. Way back when, Coke had Santa Claus on the cans. And I was so lucky at that time, when I was building, I was in the mood to just make and save soda can flat because I had planned on building models. And Santa Claus was terrific. He came in a soda can, Coke, remember? That was Santa. Then the following year, he showed up like that. So he kept on changing in style. So we end up with Christmas time, these guys, the polar bears. It's very important to me to keep the Santa Clauses because my gift giving was making things with Santa Claus's face on there. And I wrote to Coke and I said, put Santa Claus back on the can. Didn't do any good. Eventually, they got rid of the polar bear. And what did he end up with? A green stripe for Christmas. Luckily, I had a box of these Santa Claus aluminum sheets saved, so thank goodness. And I grabbed a rag because there was some goo on one of the aluminum sheets. And I went to wipe it off, and what happened? Santa Claus smudged. And I'm sitting there going, what just happened? The rag I used removed his face. Discovered something. Okay. I figured, oh well, screw it. I'll just continue wiping Santa Claus off. And lo and behold, this is what it turned into. Now you can't get that by doing the same thing on the inside because they use different manufacturing process on the inside of that can. That is gorgeous. Yes, sir?
The rag, what did you use on the rag?
I don't know. I had quick green or what that green? Simple green. And I figured simple green did it. So then I got another can. I figured I want more of this. But it didn't work. It didn't clean it off. Different years, different manufacturing process, different paints, who knows? But that Santa Claus has disappeared.